Following a shock result last time out at Silverstone, the Formula One paddock went into this Hungarian Grand Prix weekend very uncertain about the true pecking order. One thing was clear though, after 2 engine failures to start his season off, Giovinazzi was looking hungry for a swift return to solid points, and the Italian made a statement by being the fastest on track in FP2. However, as has been the case since preseason, the Audis turned up their engines and looked as strong as ever in FP3. But they have admitted that they are still yet to get to grips with converting their pace into convincing race performances. Meanwhile, McLaren looked to be the ones hot on their heels as they outpaced the Mercedes boys at the end of free practice on Saturday. Taking a look now at the starting grid for today's Hungarian Grand Prix, it is once again the Audis at the top of the field, with Carlos Sainz leading Sergio Perez just over a tenth quicker in qualifying. The Audis 7/10ths ahead of the rest of the field. McLaren best of the rest in 3rd and 6th, with Lewis Hamilton on the 2nd row alongside Antonio Giovinazzi in the Red Bull. McLaren, Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, and Jaguar all separated by less than 3/10ths. Sebastian Vettel in the Ferrari grabbing that 5th position on the 3rd row alongside Kevin Magnussen in the other McLaren. In 7th position, we've got Pascal Wehrlein in the Mercedes alongside his teammate, the Mercedes boys, locking out that 4th row with Max Verstappen in 8th position. Aarava will start from 9th position in the Jaguar. He's happy to beat his teammate, while Daniel Ricciardo in the Ferrari disappointed to barely get into the top 10. Speaking of disappointed, Pierre Gasly down in 11th for the Red Bull team will be upset about being outside the top 10, as will Stoffel Vandoorne in the other Jaguar. Nico Hülkenberg for the Renault team will start from 13th position, the lead Renault for this race, alongside Valtteri Bottas in the Williams in 14th position. Then the lead Haas, once again as Romain Grosjean. He'll be joined on that row by the other Renault of Delatraz. In 17th position, it is Mick Schumacher for the Force India team. He'll be joined by Sergio Camara in the other Williams. Starting just behind Mick Schumacher will be his teammate Esteban Ocon from 19th position on the grid in the other Force India. He's joined by Sergei Sirotkin in the other Haas. Bringing up the rear of the grid, once again, it's the Alfa Romeos, nearly 2.5 seconds slower than the Audi cars, but only 1.7 seconds off the McLarens.
What's going on, guys? Over here, and welcome back to my F1 MyDriver career mode, episode number 3 today for season 5 at a very soaking Hungarian Grand Prix. But we've done the job in qualifying. You saw the starting grid. I think we've done a pretty damn good job just to be lining up behind a Mercedes car here this season in the Jaguar. And obviously on full wet conditions, it's going to be quite tricky for everyone out there. So we could be able to gain a few more positions than we usually would off a dry start. So as the grid gets underway for the formation lap, just want to say a huge thank you to you guys for the, again, amazing support in episode 2, just like was on episode number 1. And if you have missed that episode number 2, uploaded last Friday at Silverstone, the British Grand Prix, then do go check it out. An absolute crazy result. Won't spoil it for you, but do go check it out. It was quite worthwhile watching there, so do go check it out if you have missed it. But let's get into this. We line up in our grid slot for P9 here at the Hungarian Grand Prix. Let's get into it, because we go to 5 red lights for the Hungarian Grand Prix, round 3 of this 29 season. 5 red lights are out, and we're underway very gingerly in first gear. A lot of wheel spin. We go up the gears into 3rd gear, and as we move onto a panning shot of the entire grid, you can just see the amount of spray being kicked up. You can hardly even see where I am on this grid. As we cut back to our onboard POV, Wehrlein very narrowly just punts me off there, so we have to take a bit of evasive action, a bit of a wider line, get on the curb, get a lot of oversteer and wheel spin off that curb. So not a brilliant start for us, but we've not lost any position, so we're in P9 still. That's good. And ahead of us, just out of the spray, you can see Magnussen and Vettel making contact there. So that's Magnussen losing out 2-3 positions there. Vettel goes side by side with the Mercedes car, and we've tucked in nicely behind them as we go up to this blind left-hander crest. Sainz still leading the way from Perez, Giovinazzi, Hamilton, then goes Wehrlein, Vettel ahead of Verstappen then, and then we follow through. But let's take a replay look at what happened to Magnussen and Vettel, because there definitely was some contact there. Couldn't quite see it with the spray from my POV, but we'll definitely see what happened here as we're on board with both these drivers. So Magnussen makes a good move down the inside of Vettel. They go side by side. Obviously a lot of spray kicked up ahead of Vettel. Maybe he makes a mistake. There's a bit of contact already, and then Vettel swings very oddly wide, lets one Mercedes through, and then goes side by side with Verstappen, I think that is. And then there we are, going around the outside of Magnussen. So Magnussen loses 4 positions, I think that is, if I count correctly. And Vettel there having to struggle to fight off Verstappen when he was trying to just defend from Magnussen. So poor there from Vettel into that corner, but very easy to make a mistake in these very treacherous conditions. You can see the amount of spray being kicked up down the straight, but you can see leading the way in on lap 2 is Carlos Sainz, still from Sergio Perez in second place. You can see both Audis already getting away from what will be Giovinazzi in third place. Then we've got Hamilton in fourth with a good start from him. And then behind him, I think, is the Mercedes of Verline. So Verline, so far, making best of these conditions compared to Verstappen, actually, and looking a lot more confident than Verstappen, already on the back of Hamilton there. You can see Giovinazzi is also getting away from Hamilton a little bit. So surprising to see Hamilton struggling in the wet conditions. He's usually known to be quite good in these conditions, but he's struggling a little bit for now. But we move on to lap 4. There's yellow flags ahead of us. So has there been some contact made? Sergio Perez is out of this race. Has there been contact with Sainz, or has he just pulled over? That looks like he may have just pulled over, because he pulled over in the grass. Safety car's been called out. I think that's probably understandable, because that's quite a dangerous place to have the car parked up. But let's take a look at a replay of what happened to Perez. Now, he was very, very close to Sainz actually here on that lap, so I was thinking there was maybe some contact, but also the way he was pulled up suggests to me there may have been an engine failure. But you can see Sainz leads the way, Perez second, trying to close him down. There's such a big gap to him behind, so it's such a shame for him to be out this race. And there you go, his engine's gone, the exhaust fumes pile out of that Audi car. He rapidly pulls it over to the side by the marshal so his car can get taken away there. But just showing there that everyone in this year's Formula 2019, the new V8 hybrids, even Audi, who seemed so strong in bulletproof in pre-season, looks like everyone is susceptible to the odd mechanical failure so far this season. So it's going to be, as I mentioned last episode, quite a lot of consistency and just general mechanical behavior for the teams is going to come into play in terms of who's gaining in this championship. So at the moment, Sainz has pretty much got a very easy race ahead of him then in first place. But you can see now we've come in to the pit stop, same time as Verstappen and Ricciardo, I think that was behind us. But we've actually come in a lap later than most people. We actually also get held up there. You can clearly see I was held up behind the Williams car, and we've only just come out ahead of Magnussen. So we got overtaken by the Williams and the Ferrari car in that pit stop, unfortunately, because my team couldn't do a fast enough job on the pit stop there. So we come out just ahead of the Haas car of Grosjean, I think that is, and behind the other Ferrari of Vettel, I think that was, or it might be an Alfa Romeo of Fuoco. But you can see we pit a lap later compared to most people on the grid, because I didn't think it was actually time for inters, because even now, honestly, to me, it doesn't look like it's inters conditions quite yet, because there's so much spray still and so much water on track. I thought it would have been at least a few more laps until it was time for inters, but no, the grip's plentiful there. So we're going to have to do a bit of overtaking here now in this stint on the inters to try and get back to where we were, which wasn't too far ahead, actually. Only a few positions we've lost there, but obviously it's not unfortunate. But I think we can gain those positions back quite easily here on the intermediates. I think after last race especially, I think I'm a lot more confident now with these inters conditions with the Jaguar car. So we close up on the Williams car. Ahead of him, we've got Fuoco in Alfa Romeo for sure. I can confirm that now. So we can try and overtake these two, hopefully on the same lap. I think we'll have the downforce and the speed. We go down the inside of the Williams car, just nice and easy in third gear. Just let the car roll through, really, not too much throttle. And then on the exit, we get it. A little slap of oversteer, but that's fine. And we're up into 14th place. And now we can try and get on the back of Fuoco. And just as we go up to the crest, the blind left-hander, you can see we gain quite a bit through the mid-apex speed there. So we're going to close up quite rapidly. But as we go into Sector 2, obviously quite a tight section here in Hungary. They call it Monaco without the barriers for a good reason. So we have to be a bit patient here. I tried to maybe have a look down the inside, but I think better of it, because I don't want to do anything rash. I don't want to kind of break off a bit of my front wing when I don't need to. So I'm just going to take it nice and patiently, wait for a gap to open up here. You see, I could have made a move there down the inside, but I just wait for the move to kind of open up here. I think maybe I can get him here. He's going very, very slowly. We've got the downforce down the inside. Very, very close stuff. Very unorthodox place to make a move there in Hungary, but we've made it work in these conditions. And so this will be up into 13th place. You can also see a purple sector, although you can see a huge slap of oversteer as we get the curbing a little bit wrong. So, we need to concentrate a little bit, because it's very easy like that to make a mistake. But as we move later on into the Grand Prix, this is actually on board and looking at Stoffel Vandoorne. He goes down the inside, or tries to go down the inside of the Red Bull car here on lap 9. You've got Mick Schumacher ahead of him, and then the Ferrari car, or I think that might be Ricciardo, but Vandoorne and Gasly go side by side into this next corner. And Gasly, what has Gasly done? Gasly's gone wide. He's taken Vandoorne off, and they've both parked it, and there we come along in P11 now as we overtake both of them on lap 9. And so we've just seen our teammate effectively being taken out of the race, or not completely taken out, but at least slowed down, in, unintentionally, intentionally, I don't know, by Gasly there, our old teammate. So our former and new teammate coming towards there. So I don't know what was going on. I don't know if Gasly maybe locked up, but that was a very, very weird place to sort of lose the car and just go straight on. I don't know if he was trying a Rosberg move of just going completely wide, trying to defend quite harshly from him. I'm not too sure. We'll have a look right now because we're on board with Gasly. So we'll see Vandoorne. He's going to try his best to go around the outside of the next corner here. And then Gasly there locking up, double lock up in fact, takes Vandoorne wide. There goes Ricciardo. And then there's both of these drivers parked up on the side road. Obviously, I don't know, maybe just in shock of what to do or how they want to navigate that, but both of them just decide to park it up there for a few minutes, or a few seconds, I should say, after that collision. So, yeah, very, very peculiar crash, I think you'll agree with me. But now we move on to lap 10, and you can see Wehrlein making a move on the other Red Bull. This is Antonio Giovinazzi going down the order, so that's Wehrlein up into second place. There goes Sainz in first, and there you can see they're still going side by side, so it's not over yet. Giovinazzi's come back at Wehrlein. Brilliant stuff there. So the two of them go side by side to the next section. So as Sainz is getting away, as these two fight away, you can see the Ferrari car and McLaren close up, and Wehrlein's just about to squeeze out Giovinazzi. That slowed them both down, so there's now a train of the Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari and McLaren there, and even the other Mercedes of Verstappen, and also closely behind them, the Renault car of Hülkenberg. So brilliant battle between Wehrlein and Giovinazzi, but not helping either of them or anyone really behind them, trying to close up on Sainz, who's now effectively got a free pass to kind of get away even more in this Grand Prix. But we move on to lap 10 now. We've finally closed up to Schumacher. It's taken us 2 laps there, or 1.5 laps to catch up to Schumacher, but finally we can try and maybe make a move. We get a wider racing line for the wet conditions, obviously. More grip there on the wider line to get the tighter cut in. And here we go with Slipstream on the Force India. Down the inside will go of Mick Schumacher. Will he press us hard into the apex? We get squeezed off on the exit. Can we get it? The engineer's asking for a change of strategy to the dry tyre, so it might be time to come in to the pits on the end of this lap. But for now, I'm concentrating on trying to get Schumacher. He's going slowly mid-apex, so we try and make a move around the outside. Very, very tricky right now because the track is basically nearly time for the slick tyres. So we leave him the room, and we actually just get a bit of oversteer on the exit, so we have to let him go for now. So we're going to stay in P11. He'll stay P10 on what will be lap 11, but we're going to come in at the end of this lap. By the end of the lap, we're right up his gearbox, but we just can't make the move. I had to think about maybe cheekily sending it down the inside into the pit lane, but that would have been very stupid of me. So we just hang it back, and now we're in the pits for what will be the soft tyres. And so in terms of the forecast for the rest of the Grand Prix, it doesn't look like it's going to be raining anymore. I think it will actually be getting sunnier as we get to the end of this. So I think we're going on the soft tyres and just basically seeing how it goes, really, and just going on a bit of a on-the-fly strategy in terms of what we're going to do. If the soft tyres go a reasonable distance, you know, we're on lap 12, so they go about halfway through left of the Grand Prix, then we know we can strap on a set of soft tyres. As we also make the pit stop, you can clearly see there, we did actually get held up again. So we're actually now behind a Renault car and also a Haas car, and we find ourselves just ahead of an Alfa Romeo. So not only is Schumacher still ahead of us, we've now got 2 more cars to overtake. So annoying, and kind of just showing the difference from last year. You know, last year I was at Red Bull and now we're at Jaguar. You can just see the difference in actual, competitiveness of the pit crews in terms of how fast they can get things done. And obviously Jaguar, their first time in, the pit crew are pretty much the same as the ones from Toro Rosso last year. Obviously they're not going to be as good as the Red Bull ones I had last year. So you can see that difference and disparity between the two, that we're kind of twice in a race getting held up enough to lose positions. But now on to lap 14, 2 laps later, we've closed up to Grosjean, but there's yellow flags, so we can't overtake Grosjean. We're so close to making a move on him, but there's yellow flags because of Hülkenberg here slowing down. I think that's probably definitely looking like a puncher of some sort, because he slows everyone down ahead of it, behind him, Schumacher and Grosjean. You can see I got so close to smashing into the back of Grosjean because the yellow flags just randomly kept on popping up, because Hülkenberg's still going annoyingly behind me, and he's sort of just, popping up these yellow flags as he comes along across the circuit. You can see it's just like a checkerboard of yellow and green, so I can't overtake Grosjean quite yet. Only now have we got away enough from Hülkenberg to get the green flag completely to try and make a move on Grosjean, but now we've got some dirty air on that right-hander. You can see I tried to close up, but we had some dirty air that pushed me wide on the racing line, and now we've got Verstappen Verstappen right behind me as well. So I think Verstappen somehow lost out in the pit stops as well. I think, or if you remember, he came in at the same time as me, actually, so that's why we're both here behind these cars. But now, as we move on to the next lap, Schumacher's been overtaken by Grosjean, and we're going to overtake Schumacher now, and that's a much easier move than what we tried in the intermediate conditions. But it's not over yet. Schumacher comes back at us down the inside of the left-hander crest, where we just about hang it around the outside, leave him the room, and Pierre Gasly is out of this race, and another safety car has been called. So 2 safety cars in the Hungarian Grand Prix now. So, and Gasly's out of this race. So we saw Gasly make a mistake earlier with Vandoorne, but now he's out of this Grand Prix. But we're going to take a look at a replay of what actually happened to Hülkenberg before, just to show you confirmation of what happened. So he was actually fighting Schumacher. Great little battle there down to turn 1. He makes the move and gets up the positions. Obviously, Renault struggling so far this season. They were hoping for much better in the 2019 season so far, but obviously no one could have predicted that the likes of Red Bull and Ferrari would be the top of the midfield pack. But here is where the puncture happens, because you can see he's already going slowly, and then he slows down Schumacher and slows down Grosjean, so we close up rapidly to Grosjean. But you can see he's still going, so he kept on lighting up the mini-map with yellow flags, because he just kept on obviously trying to get it back to the pits desperately to make a pit stop. So that's why we couldn't overtake Grosjean straight away. And then this is what happened to Gasly. He's closing up to Ocon and Delatraz, I believe this is, in the Renault and other Force India, and he's on medium tyres, so he was trying to go quite long in this race. I don't know if, oh, there's an engine failure for Gasly. I was about to say maybe he crashed into these two, because I wouldn't put it past him after what he just did to Vandoorne early in the race. But no, it's another engine failure for Red Bull Racing. That is got to be such an embarrassment for Red Bull. You know, that's a consistent one engine failure every single race. It happened twice to Giovinazzi and now to the other car of Gasly. So I'm guessing Helmut Marko will have stern words to say to Renault about that reliability of the engine. But Gasly's out of this race. Thankfully for them, they're saving graces. Giovinazzi is quite high up, I think still in 3rd place or 2nd, fighting Wehrlein for those secondary positions just behind Sainz. But now we move on to the safety car restart on lap 19 here, and you can see I'm trying not to waste any time and dawdling around. We overtake Grosjean quite rapidly after the safety car comes in, and now we're up into 9th place. Interestingly enough, we're on soft tyres, and you can see Grosjean behind me is on mediums. My teammate ahead of me is on mediums as well. So a lot of these guys are going a lot longer than me, so we definitely have to make an extra pit stop perhaps, maybe compared to them, or maybe they're going to go medium and then super soft tyres, potentially. That could be a possibility. But we've closed up to Vandoorne, our teammate now, on the sector, as we go on to sector 3 of lap 19. We're going to send it down the inside as he's been caught up behind the dirty air of the Alfa Romeo. We go side by side. We're actually going to brake early and go wide, and we're going to try the cutback line, because we're going to get better drive off that corner. And we go side by side yet again, touching his side pod a little bit as we hang it round on the final corner. He gives us the room, so fair play to him. Get it on the curbing a little bit, and so we're level pegging as we go down the main straight. But it looks like Vandoorne has a bit of a lower drag setup compared to me. I usually run quite a bit of downforce here at Hungary to try and get a good sector 2 time, but we go down the inside, locking up on the front right, and that will allow Vandoorne to get enough drive on the exit on the left hand side to still keep it round on the inside. He actually taps me a little bit, so being a little bit pushy with his elbows out here, Vandoorne, but we're going to keep it in round the outside. We surely should get the line here down the inside, just like we did to the Force India of Schumacher earlier. And so we're finally up into 8th place. But fantastic battle with my teammate once again, but always great to battle with Vandoorne. I think me and Vandoorne have never really had an issue battling on track, you know, with Gasly and Vettel and, you know, the likes of Hamilton before. I've had a few issues, you know, where there's been some contact, but me and Vandoorne, I think for the most part, we've been pretty damn respectful all our careers to one another, even when we were in the championship fight in 2016. But we've gone down very easily down the inside of Leclerc there in the Alfa Romeo. You would expect so, because Alfa Romeo is the slowest car on the grid so far on round 3 of 2019. So a very easy move there. But now we move on to lap 21. So we're getting through in this Grand Prix now. Only a few laps left in this Grand Prix, and we're closing up to the Williams car of Bottas. We'll go down the inside. We had DRS anyway, so we'll get that speed advantage, and very easily down the inside on the exit. A little bit of oversteer, but we get that second bite of the cherry of DRS, and so we're comfortably up into 6th place. But now Vettel ahead of me on soft tyres, so that's quite encouraging to see at least one other car is on the same strategy as me, because a lot of these guys are all on mediums, so that got me a little bit worried there. But up ahead now, we're in 2nd place on lap 24, because we continue on. Everyone actually made an earlier pit stop than me, which is quite ironic. I went longer than all of them on soft tyres, so just showing the kind of advantage I have a little bit on tyre wear in general with this Jaguar car. So we're pitting from 2nd, so obviously we'll go down the order, hopefully no lower than 6th place where we were previously in the Grand Prix, and I'm hoping this time we don't lose any positions in the pit lane. I mean, we can't because there weren't any cars very close to us. We can see the McLaren and a Ferrari car coming behind him, so I'm guessing that's Magnussen and Ricciardo. But as we come down the pit lane, let's see where we filter out. Just behind, I think that was a Red Bull rear wing I saw on the bottom of your screen, but we come out ahead of the Haas car and just behind the Alfa Romeo Fuoco. We're in P11 at the moment, so that suggests to me that some people are still going longer on their medium tyres, because I definitely don't think we've lost all those positions to be down here in P11. But we close up to a Fuoco on the next lap, lap 25 this is, in Sector 2, making a very bold move down the inside, but he's on the mediums, obviously very worn mediums at this point, and so we make that move, very audacious, but we pulled it off and we're up into P10. So, and a little bit of oversteer for good measures. We get that tyre on the curbing there, so we flirted with the curbs quite a bit here in Hungary, but we've so far so good. We've not kind of had any calamities with the curbs, and so we move on now to the end of lap 26 on towards lap 27. Ahead of us we've got Giovinazzi making a move on the Renault of Hulkenberg. We've got DRS. Hulkenberg quite weirdly goes onto the grass a little bit there, so that slows him down a tad on the exit. We'll get the second bite of the cherry of DRS. He's on medium tyres, so I was hoping for a bit of a better exit because of my soft tyre advantage, but then on the next corner, mid-apex, this is where I get the advantage of also my downforce of the Jaguar car. We swoop it around the outside and we go down one gear and we get up into P6 there, but it's not over because Hulkenberg, look at it, comes back rapidly in the mirrors and gets it. Actually, I have to lift off because otherwise that would have been a nasty crash. But then onto the next swooping uphill right hand as we go towards Sector 2. We go round the outside of Hulkenberg and just about make it. We try and squeeze him out. Is he going to get it? No. And we get back up into 6th place. Lovely move to hang it around the outside uphill there, reminiscent of the move I made on Verline, if you remember, in Season 3 of MyDriver, but this time I was on the outside. Very tricky place to make it work, but the downforce of the Jaguar pulls me through there, and so that was a very nice move up into what will be now 5th place, as someone's made a pit stop, obviously. And so now we're going to try and catch Giovinazzi. He's in P4. Didn't expect to be that close to Giovinazzi, actually, and on to lap 30, 2 laps later, we've actually closed up enough to get within DRS here. So not something I thought I would be saying, but looks like we can maybe try and make a move on the Red Bull car here. Giovinazzi was looking great all race long, but on these set of soft tyres, looks like he's struggling a little bit. So here we go with DRS, trying to make a move. Down the inside we'll go. Very aggressive move like Ricciardo made in the Hungary Grand Prix of 2014, but we've gone so deep there. Giovinazzi gets the switchback line. He's going to hang it on the right-hand side of the circuit. I'm on the inside line. We're going to try our best to squeeze him out there, but we're going to obviously give him the room, but we do enough, and then we get a late turnout and we get up into P4. So awesome move there. As I said, didn't expect to make that happen, but there you go. But on to the next lap, or I think later on to the Grand Prix, I think 3 laps later. Yeah, lap 33 it is. Giovinazzi comes back at us with DRS there, so it's not over. We have to try and now defend from the Italian man. We're obviously on the defensive inside line. Giovinazzi going around the outside on the left-hand side of the circuit. We get some oversteer, so that helps him go side by side with him. We're going to brake a little bit. We're going to dive it down the inside now, so we faked to the right, went down the left. He wasn't expecting it, and so now we go side by side on this next section. He's going to go on the inside. He squeezes out. There's been some contact. He pushes us off the circuit, and there's actually been enough contact for me to break a bit of my end plate there. So Giovinazzi kept it down the inside. I was giving him enough room, but, you know, clearly too much room maybe, because he thought he could just squeeze me and push me off the circuit. So let me know what you thought about that, but I thought that was quite aggressive. Maybe not enough for a penalty or anything like that. I think that was just a racing incident, but that was very, very harsh from Giovinazzi, in my opinion, to just squeeze me and run me straight off. But I think if you look back at previous Grand Prix, you remember in 2013, I think it was, Hamilton versus Webber. Hamilton did the same sort of thing to Webber, and Webber was squeezed off onto that runoff area, just like I was. You can see here, I gave him room, and I probably shouldn't have, because then he just took all that room and just took some liberties there and just pushed me off the circuit. So, in my opinion, quite aggressive. Maybe not a penalty-worthy move, but very, very close to it. Maybe a stern word needs to be said to him after the Grand Prix, because that was not on, because I've now lost a bit of my front wing. And this was on the same previous lap, or I think before, when I made the move firstly on him. We can see behind us Vandoorne, my teammate, making a move on the Ferrari car. So both me and Vandoorne trying to get up late in this Grand Prix, one position, and Vandoorne successfully overtakes Vettel there. But in the meanwhile, as we move on to the last lap of the Grand Prix, Carlos Sainz is finally going to come through for the race victory he's been yearning for. He couldn't do it in the first 2 rounds, but he's going to come through the final corner to win the Hungarian Grand Prix. And so Sainz finally gets that first race victory to match his teammate Perez. We come home in what will be 5th place, unfortunately unable to catch Giovinazzi with my broken front wing. Vandoorne comes home behind me in P6 after overtaking Vettel and nearly overtook me. If there's one more lap, Vandoorne probably would have had me there. But a great victory for Carlos Sainz. Obviously, handed to him a little bit with that engine failure his teammate had, but nonetheless, he had to do the job still to get that gap in. A very dominant showing from Carlos Sainz, but a good podium there for Hamilton and Wehrlein as well, especially Hamilton. Obviously, the McLarens have looked a bit, iffy, a bit questionable so far in the first 2 rounds, but Hamilton finally showing that the McLaren car definitely is up there and willing to match the Mercedes car at least. So as we move on to the Drivers' Championship table to see how things got affected, Vandoorne surprisingly still leads the way actually by 4 points to Wehrlein. So surprised Vandoorne actually got that, but obviously he did win the last race, so it can be expected for him to be around that region. Wehrlein though, fantastic job. Such consistency so far in the first 3 rounds means he's in second by 41 points. 1 point ahead of now Sainz, who moves up to third, matches his teammate Perez. So both Audis, even though they've been a little bit, susceptible to failures, at least they're equal pegging in terms of the opportunities they're given and the points they've got so far in this season. I'm thankfully still in 5th place here with 32 points. Verstappen in 6th. Hamilton climbs up quite a bit there with 21 points now. Magnussen behind him in 8th place. Giovinazzi finally gets a big tally on the board with 12 points there, so instantly comes up into the top 9. Remember, he was out of the 2 first rounds, so that's a big play for him to be straight up there in the top 9. Bottas in 10th. Vettel still struggling in 11th place. Obviously, Ferrari, we've heard in the reports in the paddock that, the Ferrari car is fundamentally flawed at the moment, and they're hoping for a B-spec car, but for now, they're going to have to continue on their struggles. And Schumacher doing a great job there in 12th place to be in the top 12 in that Force India still. If we move on to the Constructors, though, after everything that's gone, Audi have grabbed first place in the Constructors back from us with 3 points in it, with 40-40 obviously from Perez and Sainz now. Consistency and being close together does pay off, even though you may not be leading the Drivers' Championship. So Audi back in front with Jaguar ourselves slipping behind by 3 points, and unfortunately probably will continue to slip behind as the teams like Mercedes and McLaren, especially McLaren, only look to be getting stronger and stronger every single race. But Mercedes there with 3rd place, 67 points. McLaren now closing up a little bit with 39. Red Bull finally on the board in a big way with 16 points there, and Ferrari just ahead. But that's what I was talking about with, Renault down in 9th. They were thinking they were going to be the top of the midfield. Obviously, they still have to defeat Force India, who are, there's the top spot, I guess. But also, they didn't really factor in the fact that Williams would be making that step up with having the new Honda engine to help them out, and also the likes of Ferrari and Red Bull moving so much further back down the order that it's such a tight-knit midfield, and that the kind of line between the midfield and the kind of front runners is kind of blurring a little bit there. But very, very tight in the Constructors, as is the Drivers' Championship. But if you guys have enjoyed that video, smash the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. And you do subscribe for weekly 4 content. I've been Aarava. Hope you enjoyed the rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next time.